Yeah, it does feel like a very execution-based composition. I'm curious about this Trundle as well, with a Leona being picked into it. A lot of tanky stats to steal away, right? So we could see missing being a big factor in this game. But realistically, my eyes immediately drawn to those two AD carries because it feels like both teams looking towards the late game fighting. And it does feel like EDG, they pretty much always drafting towards the late game fighting, right? But the mid jungle 2v2, I think, is where EDG can find themselves an early advantage. We talked about how Scout and JJ love to link up early on in the game. They got Xin Zhao Lulu. Is there a better combo to do it?
Definitely not. And another thing about this is just how much Lulu shuts down LeBlanc, right? You come in extremely strong. You have the polymorph when she looks for the all-in. The damage coming out from your passive is absolutely insane. Your autos just do so much. You control prio. You make it so hard for her to assassinate anyone. Just really nice pick coming out from Scout. Really strong 2v2. Now we get to see if the EDG game plan comes through. Mid-jungle into the bottom lane.
That top side as well is going to be curious to me because breathe on a tank. It's not something we've seen really at all this year. He's got a 0% win rate on Dr. Mundo, but granted, it was only one game, so I'm kind of exaggerating that one a little bit. But regardless of Dr. Mundo lyric, we're headed on to Summoner's Rift. It's game number 1 here between WE and EDG. It is an old school rivalry that goes back literally almost a decade between these two organizations. WE has never beaten EDG in the playoffs before. The one time that WE won the playoffs, they didn't have to face EDG in the bracket. So this is going to be a test for WE. And if they can't pass that test, it'll be the end of the Miracle Run.
Yep, and the only thing jumping out to me so far in terms of runes is Flandre going towards that Conqueror. Sometimes you'll see the Aerie come out in more trade-heavy matchups where you can really abuse your range advantage, try and get the most out of laning phase. Sometimes against champions that can contest you, and it's all about the all-in, the Electro comes out. But playing up against the tank, he knows he's going to get a pretty free laning phase. Won't at least have to worry about getting killed himself. Can just farm up and play for team fights later on and just get the damage come out from Conquer. That is also why we do see him with the start of the call. So we know Flandre's role going to be playing for later on, playing more for team fights.
Not super surprising from the top laner on EDG. This is what we're used to seeing. Now, Lyric, usually I would ask you about jungle pathing here, but in rehearsal, you told me off for talking about jungle pathing because it's not about the jungle pathing itself. It's about the lane profiles, and that's what jungle pathing is, apparently. So he tells me.
I'm just saying much. Everyone says jungle diff, but right, jungle diff is just lane diff and lane prio diff. Who has more members able to follow up? I do think early on EDG are going to be in a good position. We could already see now, right? Winning in the mid lane with these trades coming out. They have push in bot, they have push in top. So JJ going to be able to do whatever he wants. Should be able to secure himself potentially a bot scuttle. Maybe even able to just do both, right? Make his way down towards one path through mid, cross into the other, and WE not going to be able to respond. And when I look at WE's options, I'm pretty much left scratching my head because you don't have great gank setup anywhere. I think you could potentially try and find ganks in mid early if some kind of like Ethereal Chain lands from LeBlanc and try and find that one before Lulu hits her level 6 mark. But it seems like Beishang definitely going to be playing on the back foot and JJ having more opportunities to exploit him.
Yeah, we'll see what JJ is going to get up to in the early game. It wouldn't surprise me massively if they have a relatively quiet early game because ultimately, we talked about JJ and Scout love to link up as this 2v2, right? Love to gank in that mid lane and try and make a kill happen early on. But there's two factors there. Number one, Scout has push anyway, so the odds of a dive seem fairly low. But also, you're against the LeBlanc, right? LeBlanc, notoriously very difficult to gank onto. But we'll find out, I guess. Is JJ heading towards that mid lane right now? He's just going to use it as a means of transport. Beishang spots it because he has that prio in the lanes that we talked about. This will be... will it be a double scuttle? JJ's going over to his chickens.
Yeah, so this is great, right? This shows EDG's priorities where they're like, hey, again, just funnel everything into Viper. Give all the gold to Viper. We're setting him up to be the big carry. JJ also going to start being able to clear the rest of his camps that, are still left up from topside and, coming back up. So seems like EDG taking the most efficient route of getting everything on the map as quickly as possible while still putting things into the players that they want to put them into.
So jungle diff is AD carry diff. I'm with you now. I'm starting to see the big picture that you were talking about, Lyric. It's a bit abstract, but we'll take it. Really good trade there from Shanks. From Shanks onto Scout there. Good little chunk, and I think that's a bit of vengeance, honestly, for how this lane has been going.
And it makes sense, right? Both TPs coming out, so resources now on both sides. Shanks to be able to start looking for these trades, but Mako doing a nice job of heading mid, just making sure nothing happens. If Shanks does overextend, he is here for an engage, and they can look for a kill. This is something that's a bit surprising because Mako has one of the highest lane proximities in the game. It's all about him and Viper just sitting in lane winning that 2v2. And I feel like one of the areas where EDG have been very exploitable is the fact that Mako isn't moving as much as other supports, which typically opens up maybe a 3v2 in mid lane where JJ and Scout can be punished, but not going to happen right now. EDG's still fine, just farming it out, playing through their lane trials as we talked about. Ooh. And Flandre actually getting Breathe quite low. Breathe still has flash and TP, so he's actually fine, but maybe Flandre can deny him some minions, but I don't think Flandre can actually push us in fast enough.
Yeah, and also Breathe has TP, right? So he should be able to get back up to that top side. But hey, Flandre forcing out a TP here means EDG can just kick this Drake off. As we've talked about, they've got the prio in the bottom side of the map already. Now with TP down for Breathe as well, this is totally uncontestable. Baishun going to move into the top side of the jungle. Maybe look for an opportunity on towards Flandre, but it's not going to happen. Flandre's headed back to base. Beautifully done here by EDG to grab themselves the first Drake.
Oh, and Flandre might be punished right now with this TP location. Honestly, probably should just head to Tribush and put that ward down first.
Does have level 6, the Slicing Maelstrom available here. Baishun will not have Ragnarok. Stun comes on through. Breathe, happy to step forwards. But WE won't go underneath the tower here. And Flandre, he's still going. He's still throwing lightning. Breathe, one proc away from a stun here. But Flandre can't follow up too much. Really great play to deter the dive, though. Didn't even have to flash.
We've seen this from Flandre before, right? I can't remember who it was against, but the Wukong coming out with the 1v2, but we got to fight bot lane.
Yeah, Elk dashes away. He'll be okay. So tell me about the weak side king here up in the top side.
I mean, much we've talked about it, right? I mean, Flandre hasn't seen a gank until he was already a man, right? Like, no resources being given over from the side of EDG really ever to Flandre is a big change from last year when they had Junja on the roster and they were a much more topside oriented team, strangely enough from EDG's history. But I think Flandre, very used to being in this position. We've seen him outplay 1v2 before. I think has had a better split in summer than he did have in spring. But we need to stop talking about Flandre because EDG going for the stock and standard, starting to move to bot, but nothing.
Nothing yet, at least, but Shanks could be in trouble here. We'll have to distort away from this one as JJ just clears away the vision. EDG return to standard lanes once again. And, you know, as soon as we start talking about Flandre, he is immediately forgotten again by EDG. This is why he goes cold. This is why he's happy to just farm it up in the laning phase, because we know EDG will try and set Viper up. I am curious about the build from Viper across the course of this game, though, as I'm going to hold that thought. No, he's not going to chase. Okay, Breathe's fine. Because Viper, he's got Halo Blades. With that Noon Quiver, I'm thinking maybe he goes on hit Varus this game.
And that's what I was actually thinking of coming out from draft, right? Because you look at their comp and you look at what W have taken against it, and like we hit on, it's very tanky. Later on in the game, I think EDG's damage can get quite rough at taking down members. So going towards more of an on-hit Varus route, I think feels better. As Mako, just being a bro, trying to make sure Missy can't hold that wave. And yeah, I want to see what Viper does. Does look like he's going to go towards that Immortal Shield Bow, which has been the most common of the crit mythics to come out, right? I don't feel like we see that much Kraken Slayer anymore, and I mean, haven't really seen any Gale Force Varus, so going to go towards potentially the stock and standard. As EDG still just going to play around this mid-jungle 2v2 with Herald up, it does look like they're going to start making their way up towards his top side, and EDG should be able to get this.
JJ has no interest in leaving Baishun alone this game. Wouldn't let him have the chickens earlier. Wouldn't let him have a Scuttle Crab. Now he doesn't want to let him have this blue buff. Baishun desperately trying to contest, but the blue buff will reset. EDG, they're going to be chilling as Mako moves over. This is a 4v4 between the teams right now. It's 0-0 on the scoreboard, but EDG want to change that. In goes JJ, taken down very low. Wild Growth already used. Forced to flash, slicing Maelstrom across the team. Flandre sets it up beautifully. Goes down for his trouble. It's a 2-for-1 in EDG's favor.
And I'm surprised that JJ went in so early. Coordination not really there, but he was able to get out. Flandre able to go in.
Oh, Scout. He's gone too deep on this one. Stunned up, rooted up. Will be taken down. Shanks finishes his counterpart.
And that one's just so surprising coming out from Scout, pretty much giving over a kill for free. This is going to allow W to push EDG off the Herald, and maybe they can look for more. I don't think Shanks will keep going, though.
No, he's not going to be able to find anything more, at least for now. Remember, Beishang not here just yet. He's moving over, but JJ in range to try and go for a smite here. Shanks going to try and force the enemy jungler away. There we go. That's his dash use. TP coming from EDG as they want to reignite this skirmish. Down onto the arrow. Beishang gets it in the end. EDG have to try and find the fight. True shot barrage tags a couple, but WE, they're going to be happy with that. They got themselves that Herald.
Yeah, so much posturing coming out for so long. EDG looked like they should have been able to pick up that Herald. Scout's overstep really stopping them from doing that at first. And then WE able to get it down before EDG are able to follow up and find the fight. EDG realistically could have even roamed over Viper, but once they saw that Elk was being committed to the bot lane, they wanted to match and not lose anything on the map. So we are going to see the replay here. Just actually really nice pillar coming out from Missing to make sure the other members can't follow up with JJ on the initial engage. But Flandre with the flash slicing Maelstrom is able to start bringing other members down. A lot of damage from Breathe to secure that one in the end. And Scout looking for a bit of a Q trade on Missing and just trying to get more down. Really greedy, just disrespecting Shanks here, while all the other members had already made their way into River. And this is what opens up the potential for WE to contest the Herald.
Honestly, it just feels to me like Scout thought that Shanks had recalled or something. He thought they'd all just completely backed away. Totally misread the situation. But in the end, gold-wise, still going to be in favor of EDG, right? They had the priority in the bottom side, and they're going to use that once again for a second Drake. Remember that this is EDG's bread and butter. They love to stack those Drakes up.
And we're seeing, you know, things adhere to the stats so far, right? WE first in terms of getting first Herald, EDG first in terms of first Dragon. They both are able to keep stacking those up.
Oh.
Shanks.
Heavy trades in the mid lane here, but it's not going to lead to anything, I don't think.
Yeah, not going to turn into much, but look at your mini-map. W actually making their way up towards topside to punish Flandre, but Mako is on his way.
They're trying to punish the unpunishable, though. Flandre will not go down here. Mako moving over. Herald going to be dropped by WE. Breathe will be close enough to get the 2 plates as well, so we'll be 4 plates down up in that top side. That will do something to even up the gold a little bit, but there is still an advantage there for EDG with the 2 Drakes as well. It feels like this early game is going as EDG would have wanted.
And I don't even feel like opening up top turret really does too much for WE's composition, right? It's definitely a lot more of a group up through mid, play as a 5-man unit, look for opportunities like this. You can try and play through sides later as Breathe.
Okay.
I don't think Breathe should be able to do anything here. No one else is even on the side of the map. And as we hit on, Breathe should not be able to solo kill Flandre. It would take some massive mistakes coming out from Flandre for that to happen.
He was flexing his ability to go where he pleases. He's like, you see this brush? This is my brush. I don't care which side of the line it's on. I'm going to stand here as much as I damn well please. It does decide to back away in the end, though, as Mako will get the blast code. I was a little nervous for him there for a second. If Missing could have got an auto in a little early, could have been dicey. His Missing has to move away, and EDG grouping up as a trio, looking for Missing here. Does have his flash available. He's going to get caught over the wall. Finally gets out with his life here as Beishang threatens the re-engage. There is no Drake. This is a fight over a red buff right now. Elk with a great true shot barrage and a bit more poke to follow it up as well. EDG could be in trouble as Breathe TP's in. EDG trying to back away. Flandre to join the fight, but EDG are already taken apart here. 2 more kills for Shanks, and WE are dominating the skirmishes.
And one thing I always hate to see is when you're the team proactively looking for the play, you're the team proactively invading the enemy jungle, but your TP comes out late. Your TP comes out so much later than the enemy top laner. It feels like Flandre could have come in at a better timing. Even if you don't end up finding kills or finding the team fight win, you're at least going to dissuade the follow-up engage coming out from WE. We're going to see here in the replay, they try and catch out Missing, do use the ultimate coming out from Leona, but Missing did have flash available, not committing anything more like the Chains of Corruption from Viper. And then this is where we're going to see they want to contest this red buff. They had push in mid, they had push in bot, they have TP in their top lane as well, but Breathe channeling his TP first, JJ walking so far forward to take this red buff, ends up getting chunked so early. Mako also trying to buy space for the other members. It pretty much seems like JJ getting a bit ahead of himself, Flandre's TP not being channeled, and then Mako being a bit of a bro saying, hey, if you're going down, I'm going down with you, and we'll buy space for our carries.
So I'm gonna suggest something here, Lyric, and I want to give me like a true or a false, right? EDG played this red buff invade like they were playing with a lethality Varus. True or false?
Actually, I would say pretty true. That's a pretty good read. For EDG, though, I don't think it changes anything even if they do have lethality Varus, but... Right, it's crazy when we talked about EDG as a team that have been more tempered relative to other LPL teams. Not a team that's always going to look for like these gambles or these crazy engages, but starting to give some ground up to WE, though gold is still even.
Yeah, and a lot of that down to the fact this bot lane tower has just been taken. Look at the CSD in that bottom side as well. 30 CS lead to Viper, and that is where the even gold score comes from. Because when you look to the mid lane, it's a totally different story. Shanks, 3 kills across these skirmishes, already with Illudens and Boots. 4 stacks on a Dark Seal. Feels like Shanks, the player that has been endlessly criticized for WE across the course of this year, is stepping up when it matters the most.
And he's going to have to do a lot of work, right? Because we see the amount of survivability on EDG side, the Immortal Shield Bow coming out from Viper. You have, you know, tanks and bruisers across the board in other areas. You have the wild growth coming from Scout. Speaking of Scout, W are going to look for it, but I think Scout should be fine. Has Flash available as well. So W just going to go towards this bottom side. Should open up for a play potentially in topside jungle, but no camps available for JJ actually. And Breathe even just backing off his turret.
Shanks trying to defend here in the mid lane. Should be able to clear the wave with a distortion, but not if a TP comes through onto that cannon. So TP used here by Scout just to make sure they can guarantee that tower. A little bit of a chunk taken off of Viper as Breathe looks for an all-in onto Flandre. Mundo goes where he pleases, and Flandre does too apparently as he escapes. So now JJ jumps in onto the Mundo. Breathe will be breathing no more. JJ cuts him down. It's going to be traded for a tower in the bottom side.
And really nice punish coming out from EDG. I didn't even notice that Breathe is actually going towards Divine Sunderer Mundo. This is our first one in LPL playoffs so far. We've had the Gore Drinker. We've had the Frozen Fist come out, but this being our first Divine Sunderer, feeling like he has the damage, but the rest of the Cavalry shows up. Guess what, Breathe? The rest of your team was on bot side playing for bottom lane turret. All of EDG were there, and yeah, Breathe with not the same amount of damage as the carry, getting a bit ahead of himself, Munch.
And I think perhaps misreading the situation, right? Perhaps believing the statistics too much. Because just like us, he's probably coming into this game thinking EDG, they're all about stacking the tricks. They're all about playing bot side. He assumes nobody's here, and he was very wrong.
I mean, he shouldn't even have to assume, right? EDG just took mid lane turret. They were already hovering up towards top side. You look where the rest of your team is on the map, heading down towards bot. And he might be tanky, he might be able to go wherever he pleases, but multiple members come out from EDG able to take him down. And just a bit of an overstep coming out from him when his team is playing towards the opposite side of the map.
I mean, it's a misnomer, right, about Dr. Mundo. Everyone always talks about how he goes where he pleases. It's kind of like freedom of speech, right? You can say what you like. It doesn't mean that you can't be punished for going where you please, you know? You can go wherever you want. It doesn't mean the enemy can't kill you.
Yeah, definitely feeling it on that one. Still much, we had a bit of a trade though. Like you were saying, right? Maybe Breathe believing a bit too much in the stats. Speaking of the stats, EDG getting away from it, going up, getting that Herald because they were playing towards top side. So gonna be able to utilize that one. I don't really think there's a prime lane for them to do it with. Looks like now pushing through mid, getting vision in top jungle. Maybe can use it towards top. Maybe can end up saving it for when the next dragon spawns and just try and guarantee yourself a third Drake. Because none of these tier 2s really matter too much for opening the map. Flandre.
Oh no. He's been bamboozled. He's been... That is just classic misdirection right there, Lyric. Classic misdirection.
And Flandre does fall for it. Always known for pretty much getting wrecked by anyone who has been able to wreck people before. Is Flandre receiving a lot of criticism in Spring Munch. Kind of depressing coming out as... Like we said, always being left on his island, almost able to find the 1v1 here. And heck, he's only 1-1-2. The enemy's 3-0-1. She's a ton of mobility, but not able to do today.
Nope, not going to happen, at least for the time being in EDG. Feels like they are just going to stick to the slow and steady game plan. And so far this game, it has felt a little bit like when WE tries to make a play somewhere on the map, we see one of the solo laners from EDG managing to escape it, managing to read the play, walking away with their lives and sacrificing a couple of plates or a tower, right? Whereas when we see EDG make a play, we see WE go, bring it on, boys. We're more than happy to take you down. We saw the invade onto the blue buff to fight for the Herald. We saw the invade onto the red buff. WE stepping up to fight at every single gate. Does feel like so far it is EDG, though, that are setting the pace. It's just WE that are meeting them wherever they go.
And we can even see the two different dynamics coming out from the compositions, right? EDG always going to be grouping up as a unit through mid, trying to take prio, you know, 4-man, maybe 5-man walking a river together. So for WE, it's all about playing through the side lane pressure you have with your LeBlanc, even with your Kennen against Sabundo, right? Breathe going with the Divine Sunder, going to start getting tankier. Flandre's not going to be able to push out that side lane either. So for WE, they're going to be able to control side lanes, look to move first, have numbers advantage, but EDG look for the engage on Missing.
Yeah, Missing's in trouble. Already used his flash as a solar flare. Gets the stun here. Flandre looking for a follow-up stun. Missing should go down here. Taken out by EDG before the fight can even begin. Elk, you got to be a little bit careful, buddy. Stepping forward to try and get some Qs in, but doesn't want to step too far forward. That is some damage coming out from Elk. Half a Viper's health bar already just from a WQ here as JJ cannot find the entrance onto the fray here, but the Herald will charge down in this mid lane.
And even another one that looked like weave through the minions at the end to hit Viper. As like you said, Viper half HP, Mako being taken pretty far down as well. Doesn't matter that EDG find the pick. The damage coming out from Elk and even Shanks in the end able to deter them. 50 seconds until Drake is what we're looking at, so EDG being forced to back off right now isn't too bad. Refill your wards, get back on the map with new items. And we saw there, right? Just keep forcing as a group, punishing when WE are showing on sides.
You know, I watched an interview with the coach of WE Assassin before this series, and he was asked to kind of profile each of the players on his team. And the thing that he said about Elk really stood out to me, that Elk is an incredibly intelligent player that very regularly and very actively improves. He's the guy that is the most willing to learn from his mistakes. And it does feel like across the course of this split, he has become so much more reliable of an AD carry. Because when you think back to last year, Joe Among was kind of known for getting caught out, being a liability to WE, and they had to play around him because of that. They don't play around bottom lane anymore, and it feels like he's still a massive threat every single game.
I think he's a player that's seen improvement ever since, you know, becoming a starter in 2020. He is still not going to be able to go through. Now, like you said, this split, I feel like he hasn't really been an issue on the WE roster. I've definitely been looking at players like Missing who have, you know, maybe get to mid-game, get picked out a few times. Shanks coming in, having some bad games. Mole earlier on in the split. Feels like Elk has been the consistent piece you can rely on to show up in mid and late game team fights. Sure, might not always be lane dominant, sometimes might even go down in 2v2s, but is always going to find a way to have an impact on the game.
Yeah, I mean, he's closed up a lot of that CS difference that we saw building up across the course of that early game. And let's kind of check in on the score here. So we've broken past the 20-minute mark. It's 3 Drakes to EDG, and the gold's still just about dead even, which, Lyric, if you remember earlier, I was praying that we were going to see a quiet early game with even gold so we get some late game team fights. And it does feel like this game could be exactly that. When it comes to items, a couple on each AD carry here, and it feels like that's where your eyes have to wander on looking at who's going to carry these fights. But we've got a bit of an ARAM going on as Flandre looks for a flank off to the side. Beisheng making sure to keep vision control of the river for now. EDG going to pincer. Beisheng and Breed could be caught out here. Stun comes on through. They'll walk away. Ragnarok used just to keep himself safe.
I actually think that's so massive, being able to bait out the Ragnarok. EDG doing such a good job of not having to commit to the fights. They are allowing Elk to get a bit of damage down on players like Mako, players like JJ, but it isn't too big of a deal just yet. Both teams, actually no, only EDG backing off. WE still staying in mid. They want to look for this. I guess they do have both side waves pushed out right now, so EDG will end up losing something, but EDG can look for the fight.
There's Solar Flare, no Ragnarok available, but Mako's gone too deep, forced to flash away himself, and JJ left alone. Wild Growth comes in, but Beisheng falls. And Xin Zhao managing to take that kill for himself, takes a bit of punishment on the way out, but he'll survive, and that's all that matters now. EDG with positional advantage on this Baron, and WE have to face check in and try and answer. The re-engage could come back through from EDG, but they're getting pretty low.
That's the thing, right? Once the ultimates are used by EDG, it's so hard for them to re-engage. Slicing Maelstrom is still up for Flandre, so he is the one hope for the team. But man, JJ is getting chunked so low, he might be dead.
Oh! Shanks jumps over and finishes him off. JJ stepped way too far. And once again, EDG's oversteps punished by Shanks' LeBlanc.
And it just seems like if EDG can't find the engage onto Elk, onto Shanks, that it's still going to be losing even if they get a pick, right? The return damage is just too much coming out from WE on the back end. Once the Solar Flare and the Chains of Corruption are down, you don't really have a great way of getting on top of WE. You don't have a great way of looking for a re-engage that we were hitting on. And it just lets WE do what they please. For EDG, maybe they could use something like, you know, a Slicing Maelstrom with Flash or the Rocket Belt coming out and look to get on them that way. But both Elk and Shanks are extremely mobile.
And I want to return to a conversation that we had earlier on about the compositions, right? And we were saying it depends on how W are going to operate this composition, but LeBlanc is known as an assassin, but so often essentially becomes a poke champion, right? It's all about dipping in and out of the fights, just doing little chunks at a time. And alongside this Ezreal, this feels like, even though you only have one long-range character, really, this feels very much like as if it was a Zoe Ezreal comp, right? It's all about that poke damage, all about doing chunks over and over and over again.
And we were so hyper-focused on the fact that there are a lot of members that have survivability on EDG's side, that you have the wild growth coming out. But you're right, in a war of attrition, W are just using the LeBlanc. He's just constant poke to whittle you down bit by bit. You don't really need the burst to be able to come out. I love the fact that for the past, like, 4 minutes, both W and EDG have pretty much a stayed mid, right? Flandre going up to catch top wave, but a majority, 4 of the core members all swinging around mid, just waiting for that next Drake to come up. This is typical Edward gaming, as they're just going to keep controlling mid wave. We're going to see if they can find another pick once again, with the fact that both Solar Flare and Chains of Corruption are up. Elk doing a nice job of just sitting right next to Missing. We're going to see how much work Missing's pillars can do from stopping the engage, able to find their way onto the Ezreal.
Does feel like this is no longer a battle for mid-prio, right? This is a battle for pride. Neither team is willing to give up this ARAM. As we now set up in the river for WE. It's 23 seconds until that Cloud Drake would be sold for EDG if they're able to get it. As they push this mid-wave in, JJ just gets kicked out of the fight completely. In they go. Mako starts the fight. Wild Growth used, but he's just taken down. And EDG, that was the most uncoordinated play I think I've ever seen them make. Viper now caught out. Elk looking for more damage. Another Mystic Shot. Doesn't have True Shot Barrage here. And WE Breathe is just looking for a blue buff in the meantime. Like WE, they're not even batting an eye at EDG.
Yeah, EDG just getting forced off the objective. It doesn't matter that EDG are on sole point. Doesn't matter that EDG come into this game as heavy favorites. WE looking to continue their run, starting to inch their way to controlling this game. Gold might still be even, but for the past few minutes, it's been all about Team WE. We're going to see here what you were talking about this engage coming through. W just putting so much pressure by controlling River, Shanks, being able to get damage done onto JJ, and that was absolutely massive from the kills able to come out. Mako going in a bit by himself. Scout not really able to do much right. And I feel like the massive thing is Flandre's not here. Flandre feels like the most pivotal part of your 5v5 composition, right? He is where all the AoE comes from, with the fact that Viper is going for this on-hit Varus build. Scout, not really going to deal any reliable damage in these team fights. It's much more about the sustain. So without Flandre, feels like EDG were forced into a corner, pushing Mako to go in, and him dead, Scout, JJ getting chunked really low, leads to WE winning the fight for Dragon.
And I feel like we have to quickly return to what happened during the draft phase here as well, because Shanks getting this LeBlanc feels like it is an issue for EDG. You and I talked about how there is a potential strategy for EDG where you just ban out Shanks and WE falls apart. Doesn't feel like WE had to deal with that strategy so far this game, and Shanks is over the moon about it because he is massively ahead. He's already got 3 items. He's been a terror to deal with for EDG all game long.
I think you just got to do it right. Shanks has looked so proficient on both LeBlanc and Syndra. Take both away. From then, we've seen him default onto picks like Rise, but when he gets his hands onto something like LeBlanc, he's able to do so much work. And it doesn't really matter that EDG put together this composition that looked like it should be able to take these 5v5s. WE always able to get on objective first, always able to whittle them down, doing a nice job of controlling vision so far. just using tools like Pillar and just Mundo as a whole has giant meat shields that EDG aren't able to get past. And I don't think the game gets any easier. We're at a point now, 3 items for Elk. He's doing so much damage, Divine Sunder, Mirror Mana, even having the Frozen Heart already, just knowing he doesn't have to worry about too much DPS coming out from the other side. And even Shanks, 3-item Power Spike. Both of your carries extremely strong.
Beisheng, there's like the whole of EDG whittling down a chicken. Beisheng just throws an undertow in, turns around. Cool guys don't look at explosions, then puts his shades on. Beautiful stuff there from the WE jungler. The fight for mid prio, the eternal battle in the mid lane continues here, Lyric. It is EDG that are winning out on the way.
Flandre?
Oh, TP comes in from the side here. Shanks could be in trouble. Actually distorts towards Flandre. That's the wrong direction. Force the flash here. Chain of Corruption goes short, though. It means EDG don't find their window, and Beisheng whips the shades out once more.
Yeah, but Breathe is getting a turret down in the bottom lane. So I think W are fine with this. Sure, Shanks does end up losing a flash only for what is a Slicing Maelstrom on the side of Flandre. You're going to get a bit of gold in the bot lane. And WE still control the map. I just love that you're right. We're having an eternal ARAM this game, Munch. These teams just won't stop.
I feel like I'm watching something to do with the Diablo universe here, right? The eternal battle between the angels and the demons. But instead it's a battle for mid lane prior. And WE slowly but surely starting to win that battle of attrition that you described it as earlier on. Breathe managing to finish that tower off in the bottom side. And importantly, WE, even though we've been fighting mid this entire time, even though 2 towers have been taken in the mid lane by EDG, WE still only just finishing that tier 1.
I mean, for WE, they've still been doing a good job of controlling side waves, right? It's just not about keeping your member side lane all game long, pushing those turrets when EDG's not showing on the map. Because when EDG's not showing on the map, you know to expect these plays around mid. So in anticipation, WE are just kind of like, okay, we set up our side waves to push, and then we move back towards mid in anticipation for the fight to come out. And we've seen for WE, it's been working. It doesn't matter that we've been, you know, eternally in this one lane. It doesn't matter that it has resembled a lot more of an ARAM, because WE just doing such a nice job of playing through. We've already hit on a lot of the item power spikes coming out and how the damage falls off from the side of EDG. You look at Breathe now, finally having the Thornmail coming out, sitting on Spirit Visage, a Bramble Vest in Beisheng's inventory. I just feel like it's going to be so hard for EDG to take these fights, because Viper can't even walk forward to hit frontline with the threat coming out from Shanks and Elk.
Shanks dips back out once again. Beisheng slowed though as EDG try and close the gap onto him, but they just can't get there. Chain of Corruption onto Missing. There's an arrow as well, but that's about it. As EDG retreat back into the river once more. Drake up in 20 seconds. This would be Soul for EDG if they're able to get on top of the situation. But Flandre kicked out here by Shanks. I love this aggressive LeBlanc that we're seeing from Shanks all game, pushing forwards. Redemption used here by EDG just to keep the health bars at a reasonable level. But WE continue to push forward, continue to aggress. EDG now trying to answer. W comes out, True Shot barrage across the team, and Mako chunked down to half and back out once again. JJ can't close the gap. EDG, they're being toyed with right now. WE playing with their food. Elk actually jumps forward with his E, has to flash back out. Flandre into the pit, in go with the fight. Shanks in trouble, 1 HP goes down. Flandre with a Slicing Maelstrom. EDG, after everything, after this huge battle of poke, WE overstep and EDG take them apart.
EDG finally going to be able to get this soul, finally taking a fight, bringing the gold back closer, Munch. But I don't think this is anything to scoff at for the side of EDG. WE are still so strong. Elk being alive and them not able to take him down, I think, is so terrifying. They're making their way towards Baron. If they are able to pick up this one, this can start to close the game for EDG. But they still have to worry about the poke coming from Elk.
TP from Breathe. Beisheng over the wall here. Will have vision on the Baron. Flandre up on the top side, but no Slicing Maelstrom here. Elk will be able to poke. Breathe can move into the pit. Beisheng has flash available. Needs to try and look for the steal. Into the pit, and he gets it as well. Elk still alive here. Jumps away. Gets a Q onto Flandre. Breathe playing bodyguard. Elk playing sniper on the backside. JJ forced away as Breathe chases for more. He continues to go wherever he pleases. And Flandre now in trouble, but Shanks misses the chains. EDG, they get away with their lives, but not with a Baron.
Much, I felt like that was EDG's only chance to be able to try and take this game, to try to salvage it back. but this is looking decisive for WE moving forward. It's been a bit slow. It's been a bit, like we said, a war of attrition, but WE have been in control for the past 10 or so minutes, and that steal feels like it seals the deal.
Oh, TP behind the team, though. Flandre is here. Scout is here. Slicing Maelstrom comes in onto 2. It's missing and Breathe, though. The 2 tankiest members. Breathe still alive. And it's a redemption in. The damage is there. Elk finishes off Flandre. I cannot believe that didn't work out. EDG, there's nothing they can do, Lyric.
I mean, if they can't get on top of Shakes and Elp, it really feels like there is just no hope. They did almost no damage to Breathe. He is so massive on this Mundo, like we hit on with the Spirit Message already coming out. And now for WE, it's like, cool. We got a bunch of kills. We got the Baron. We're going for our resets, open inhib. And now Elder's going to come up in 4 minutes. Feels like, once again, another area where they can try and go for it. And this steal, you hit on it. Beishang still had his flash up. Flashes in, doesn't wait for the stun to come out. And it looks like... Okay, so both smites did come out from both junglers. And JJ is coming out a bit too soon as we head into the other replay. I mean, both members extremely tanky. Even the Subjugate coming out from missing to make sure that he does have enough stats to be able to stay alive. Breathe also did go for the flash with the fact that other members did follow up. And then look at Elk just safely throwing out Qs from the back, never in harm's way.
And Shanks with a massive Mimic Distortion there across 3 members. Just pretty much annihilates the whole of EDG. He almost has a Flame Horizon going in that mid lane. He is massively ahead. He's already finished his 3 items, heading towards a Banshees as well. When you look at Elk's inventory, he's already got 4 and a Serrated Dirk. And it feels like EDG are running out of steam on this one. And importantly, we saw yesterday that LNG had their miracle run. They made it all the way to round 4, and then they got 3-0'd by FPX. FPX just destroyed their dreams. And now, on the other side of the bracket, WE step up to EDG, and they say they will not go down without a fight.
No, W doing such a good job. I mean, looks like all of that practice running their way through the bracket is paying off in terms of how they are able to take these games. Doesn't matter that the enemy team was able to pick up that soul. W doing such a good job of playing out with this Ezreal. You hit on it. We've seen this Ezreal 24 times from Elk so far. He is so comfortable on this champion.
Oh, no.
As Mako.
Shanks is caught out. Mako, I thought he'd gone too far, but he's found the perfect pick. Shanks oversteps. Did not have the Banshees just yet, and he's punished for it. In fact, he did have the Banshees. Just Mako follows him anyway. Now EDG, what can they do with this pick? It's 2 minutes until either neutral objective comes up, but maybe they can look for towers.
Yeah, EDG not going to be able to do too much with this one, right? I mean, this game, it's easy to see where it's going to go. Unless some kind of, like, crazy mishap happens before the next 2 minutes, we're going to come down to one Elder fight, and that's going to be that, as we are going to see Breathe, the one to actually be able to pick up the red buff. That
was nice coordination, though.
It was
nice coordination.
Was pretty clean coming out from them, but lucky for Shakes, that was his one allowable death in a time period where death doesn't really matter. We are going to get to see the pro view from Mako in this one. Then it's laid into the queue. And then we also see Chains of Corruption coming out from Varus at the same time, just providing the amount of lockdown needed. And I mean, everyone was there right behind him, right? So nice job coming out from Mako to set that one up.
Yeah, and you know, there's been a couple of fights this game where I've seen a Zenith Blade come out from Mako. We've seen Shanks dip back, and suddenly Mako is way too deep, but he's a lot tankier than he was earlier in this game. And also importantly, missing was nowhere near Shanks, right? So the Subjugate doesn't come down. Mako is still able to just go for that lockup, and the rest of the team able to follow up. These True Shot Barrages are doing too much. There is a 700 gold bounty on Elk right now. And the same can be said for Viper, right? He's full build on this Varus. He just never gets in range to actually hit anyone.
That's the thing, right? Both AD carries are full build right now. We're going to be seeing if EDG can find a way onto Shanks and Elk. The hard thing about that as well is, right, Shanks and Elk are never playing on top of each other. Elk is sitting there with his front line. Shanks is always off to his side. So even if you do find a way to get on top of one, which you might not have the damage to take them out anyway, you're still going to have to worry about the other one is the problem right now.
I love the Trundle being in the meta because it's such a great disengaged support as well. It feels like Tom Kench got removed as a support and Trundle just took his place. It's like EDG try and move in. They try and punish WE. Missing just drops a traffic cone. He's the traffic police and he's not letting you drive past the speed limit today. Big poke onto Mako. Down to half, down to less than half as Elk cannot miss a single shot. In goes Shanks as well. Big damage onto JJ. He wants to look for the re-engage by the looks of his posturing here, but he's just going to slowly but surely run out of health. The Serpent's Fang paying dividends here for Elk. More damage onto the tanks here. Elk already used his E, though, manages to get out over the wall. JJ chasing for this one. He just doesn't have the damage. There's no damage coming out from Viper. He can't get close enough, and Breathe is behind everyone, but so is Flandre. This is the moment for EDG. If Flandre can finish these kills, but he can't quite take the health bars down just yet. JJ survives. Breathe trying to regroup with the team as well. It's a 1-for-1 across the teams here. Shanks looking for the chains onto Scout. Shanks on the wrong side of this play right now, but he should be able to get away. He is that LeBlanc trying to channel a recall. There's JJ trying to regroup with his team. Breathe, stepping forwards. He is real tanky right now. Beishang on the other side in this endless fight. Remember, Elder is on the cards for whoever wins this skirmish. Shanks is over the wall. He's looking for Scout here. Bit of damage, but the Wild Growth denies a lot of it. Has to flash away himself, but he forces EDG away.
And things are just so on edge right now, Munchables. Both teams playing very cautiously. We see that WE, they have the health bars. They still think they can do it, right? They have a lot of non-committal damage coming through with the LeBlanc, but EDG doing a nice job keeping up their deathball formation to make sure no one comes through. But TP's coming out. JJ is still incredibly low. EDG need to be careful.
Scout gets chunked. Oh, the ethereal chains just missed. JJ goes in onto missing here. Big damage is missing. Flashes back out to his team. Elk has respawned. He's on his way, but he's not here just yet. EDG are 5 men strong, and they're going to start the Elder Dragon. Elk trying to move closer here as Shanks is up towards the top side, but he's on wards right now. Breathe has to muscle his way in. He's got to be WE's entrance into the fight. He's going to be engaged upon himself, but he's tanky. True Shot Barrage across the team. The carries can't get in for WE, but EDG are just getting chewed through here. Mako still surviving, slicing Maelstrom on the front line. Mako survives as well. Viper low on HP, but surviving everything WE throw at him. The poke still coming out from the 2 carries on WE. EDG getting low on health. Elk doing everything he can. So many Mystic Shots, so many True Shot Barrages. Shanks into the pit as well. Viper still surviving, still has his GA. Elder getting low here. There is no jungler for WE. The smite will... No!
Oh, he gets
Elk
it!
steals it! The perfect play from Elk, as Shanks finds a kill onto Mako, and WE, they win the impossible fight. 3v5, they take the Drake. A True Shot Barrage just goes wide, but WE got the Drake.
Munchables, in the words of Casual, that one is absolutely illegal. The fact that Elk is able to steal it away. Jija had Smite up, and it's just all in shambles for the side of EDG. That was it. Things have been looking slowly more dire for the past 20 minutes of the game. They're finally able to pull it back with Jija and Flandre getting on top of Elk in one fight. And once again, WE in full control.
If there was ever a tilter, if there is ever a play to tilt you, that is it for EDG, because they have been struggling to fight this entire game, and then when it finally works out, Elk snags it away from them. It's just a Mystic Shot that takes it as well.
Oh, look, he had the Smite up. JJ, it's right. I guess though, right? We're so late in the game. Smite with the 900 damage. We're at the point where abilities are starting to starting to do quite a pretty bit of damage. So, but still, man, all members of EDG on Dragon. That one is absolutely rough. Just feels like for EDG fans, you've been here many times before. It is only game 1. It is not over yet. They have pulled it back once when it was looking dire. And Viper still 3-0-5. There's hope, Bunch. Maybe not a lot of it, but there's hope.
Yeah, there certainly is. And Mako has started those fights that turned this game around, but I don't know if it can happen again
40
here,
seconds.
Lyric. 40 seconds on Elder, and WE with both buffs want to brute force this victory. They're onto the Nexus Towers already. Good damage coming on through. And they'll play this one slow. There isn't a massive rush here. Still 30 seconds. They can use these Baroned up minions. They can wait for the next wave, and that will be EDG's opportunity. The second that buff drops in 20 seconds time, you've got to believe EDG will pounce.
EDG just need to wait out 15 more seconds. They're doing fine. As long as Elk's poke isn't connecting, they can still look for the defense. Shanks.
Flandre's TPing in, but it's too late. The rest of the team's already dead. Huge pick there. Flandre into the middle of everyone. Elder Dragon doesn't mean anything with his Zhonya's there. JJ gets one. Elk still going strong. Flandre low on HP. Mako low on HP. WE chase EDG to the ends of the earth. They take the Elder, they take the Baron, and now they will take the base. 13-12 as they finish things off, and WE take game one.
WE so far running all the way